Welcome to Animorphs Anonymous, the podcast where we casually discuss the Animorphs one book at a time.
I'm Kaycie.
And I'm Alex.
And we're going to talk you through the plot of each book.
But more accurately, take you on tangent trips, factoid forays, and say, well, actually, as much as possible.
Join us on the 1st and the 15th of each month, and we'll take you along on our mission.
And we promise to have you back under the 2-hour time limit.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army.
Okay, well, would you rather have a Veronica Mars Animorphs crossover or an X-Men Animorphs crossover?
X-Men Animorphs crossover, no question.
I mean, it was kind of a rhetorical question. Woo!
I mean, I think that, like, X-Men and Animorphs crossover is more like fan fiction territory. Like, that's like, oh, here are two things that, like, aren't super compatible, but I'm going to force them together because I love these two things. But Animorphs and Veronica Mars were like, oh, conceivably these are in the same universe.
Yeah.
Because they have that, like, same level of campiness. Veronica Mars is, like, the detective stuff is very much in line with, like, how the Animorphs solve problems, where they're like, here are the super cool ways we learn to, like, get around this and, like, outsmart Visor 3 and blah, 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 where if you, like, take one step back, you're like, oh, yeah, that would never work.
Gotcha.
So, like, they'd really match well. Like, they would vibe well, I think, better than X-Men and Animorphs.
I was trying to remember if there's any X-Men that has the power to morph or turn into an animal. The only one I can think of is Mystique. Yeah.
There's also, in the newer ones, this girl that turns into a squirrel.
Squirrel Girl?
Squirrel Girl.
Oh.
There's totally a few.
I mean, there's Beast Boy from Teen Titans.
Teen Titans go. Yeah, there is Beast Boy from Teen Titans.
So, Shawn Ashmore, Mr. Jake.
Shawn Ashmore. Yeah, we're talking about Shawn Ashmore today. Kids, ladies and gents. Let's ride this segue right down to Animorphs Town, which is where I take up residence, 101 Main Street, Animorphs Town.
Oh my god. So, let's clear one thing up first. You were sending me reaction GIFs, whatever y'all want to call them.
Pre-reaction GIFs.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like I was reading them and signing them. It's like, here's how I feel about the books in GIF form.
Yes. Okay. Please clarify that for me.
Okay, well, the GIF I sent was one of David Tennant. It was from his, what was it? Hamlet? Something like that? The one of the plays he did, the one where he wears the Superman t-shirt and the shorts and says many funny things and walks around ridiculously. And it was him trying to drink beer through a silly straw and just very drunkenly, like, moving his head around, like, to try and, like, take that sip. Like, whoa, this is too much for me. I need to drink. But also this silly straw is making it difficult. And I just think that that's a really good, not only reaction to this book, but that's, like, symbolically what this book is to me. Like,
a drunken mess.
There's the drunken mess portion of it. Like, oh my god, this is so insane. Like, it's drunken. But then there's that silly straw, and it makes it fun. And who doesn't like being drunk every once in a while? Like, this is that book.
Oh my goodness.
It's got layers.
I guess. Oh my god.
Like, what? Okay, so what did you think of this book?
This book is whack as hell. That is what I think. I just broke the audio real bad yelling at it. Holy wackadoo. We just got through some really heavy shit, and now we're in, like, goofball territory, Helmicron shit.
And it was so weird. Like, everything about this book is, like, so wacky.
Yeah. And, like, there's some, it's got a few scenes where it's, like, that classic Animorphs dark, gory, nasty guts stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, welcome to the city of Atlantis. Disney's Atlantis, everybody. Just go watch that movie if you want to know what this book is about, because there's some scenes that are directly in that movie.
Yes, and Marco constantly goes, "We've found Atlantis. Welcome to Atlantis. This is Atlantis." And it's, yes, Marco, we get it.
Yes.
And, like, I always, like, I know this book because it is so wacky that I do, like, when I think of Animorphs overall, I do remember it. But the line that always stands out in my head that, like, for whatever reason has stuck there since I read this as a small child was the one where, because somehow I did read this one as a small child and then again in college. I don't know how this, probably because it had an orca on the cover. Okay, solved. It had an orca, so I bought this book, read it as a child. The part where they're going through the tunnel and they feel the electric current when there's sharks, and then Rachel says it feels like biting into tinfoil when you have a bunch of fillings in your mouth, and Marco's like, I thought you were the pinnacle of oral hygiene. And, like, it was one of those things that, like, at one point I couldn't even, like, really place this book. Like, I vaguely remembered something about Atlantis people, but that line is, like, forever embedded in my head.
Wow.
I have no idea why. It's not important. It's not. Maybe it's a dental thing. I don't know.
I mean, it's a very visceral image of biting into tinfoil with a bunch of fillings. Like, ugh! I can feel that in my body.
It's cringy. Yeah. So yeah, that's why I think that this book, my thesis will prove to you the next 2 hours that we're discussing this book that gif of David Tennant trying to drink beer from a silly straw and being too drunk to really get it is this entire book.
Sweet.
A thesis.
A thesis.
I'm hanging my master's degree hat on this.
Good.
Oh my god. It's nuts.
And ultimately it didn't really contribute anything to the overall series except for, like, maybe some character stuff. But, like, plot-wise, it was completely a one-off adventure, I feel like.
Yeah.
Unless it comes back later, but I don't think it will.
No, it's like a one-off adventure, and I always think that this is way earlier in the series because of the like how it is a one-off adventure. Because at this point, we're so far into the Animorphs narrative that, like, every book is kind of counting at this point. Like, every book is moving or, like, hitting something. And then this one was like, oh, well, we made it to, like, 36 with this one? And they're like, here's a wacky adventure after Visor.
Yeah, it seems kind of ill-timed almost.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't, like, this should have happened, like, 20 books ago, like, back when they were, you know, still figuring everything out. But, like, I don't know.
Yeah, and especially because, like, probably the only thing that this book does is talk more about how Jake is learning to cope with having to make decisions as a leader, and even when he makes the wrong decision, how he's learning to work around that or to live with himself. This is, like, the only kind of advanced thing in this book, and that totally would have been a better message 10 books ago.
Yeah. And
so I don't know.
And I was, you know, I always try to make guesses, like, early on in the book, or at least recently I've been trying to do that. Now that I've kind of, like, got the Animorphs worlds and the writing style, like, figured out. But, like, I felt like they started a bunch of different potential paths and then didn't resolve any of them.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Like,
there's a bunch of shit I was expecting to happen and then it didn't happen. And it went in a completely weird direction.
It did. Yeah, and I'm just looking now, and this ghostwriter we don't ever see again. Her name is Erica Babone, which I love, actually. And so this is really interesting. She's one of the few with a profile here on Wikipedia, and she's a novelist, screenwriter, and stand-up comic.
Huh.
She was a material writer for David Letterman.
Interesting. Now that you mention that, I feel like there were a lot of kind of goofy lines in this book.
There were so many goofy lines, and like a lot of the characters here, like, I think we're really used at this point having our hero character, who is whoever's narrating the book, and then 2 supporting characters, and then the rest of the team falling behind it. Yeah. This book didn't follow that format at all. Like, obviously we had Jake as our hero character, but he was just really, like, a narrator in this book. Mm-hmm. Like, we didn't get into his head a ton, and we interacted with the whole team, like, relatively evenly.
Yeah,
I would say.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So it was very much like a I could see where, like, that script writing for multiple people came in, because you're not going to have people, like, on a joke show and, like, let some of the people that you paid money to have on your show fall to the background.
Yeah.
So maybe that's that. I don't know. I'm guessing. I'm really grasping. I know nothing, so.
I don't know.
But yeah, it was very funny. And a lot of the times I found myself, like, going out of the way note-taking to, like, set up one of the jokes just so I could, like, include it, because it was, like, funny enough that I'm like, oh yeah, we should talk about this. This is great. Mm-hmm. Should we just get into the details of this, because this is fucking nuts, this book.
Yeah.
Okay. Jake jolts up to the sound of the phone ringing and grabs it. It is 3 a.m. Cassie is on the line that they use, and she's like this thinly veiled code that they have to meet in half an hour, which is something like, oh, are those math problems keeping you up? And Cassie's like, yeah, and Jake's like, well, try counting sheep. I'm sure you'll be asleep before you hit 30, meaning, like, I'll be there in under 30 minutes. So Jake then looks towards the hallway. He's relieved to see that no lights flick on. This 3 a.m. phone call has somehow not awoken anyone else in his house, including the controller that sleeps right next to him. Somehow, he's the only one. Then he starts to morph to Peregrine. He jumps out the window, and he goes to fly to the barn.
Oh my god.
And
get
this
fucking Nightbird morphs. I don't know how to tell you.
They use owls later in this book for this exact reason.
I don't want to have to tell you again.
Don't make me tell you one more time, Applegate. Well, it's not even Applegate now.
Yes, I was mad.
Babone!
Babone!
Yeah, so we use this time that he's flying out to the barn to talk about, like, these are my friends. This is how we got the morphing power. We defaulted back to talking about the construction site, which is not something we've seen in a little while. Like, they've kind of not mentioned the whole construction site thing. Like, they mentioned the war and, like, oh, we were given the power to morph by Elfangor and blah, 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 but this was a throwback for me. They talk about the war, talk about the power to morph, and this is where Jake starts talking about how he feels like he shouldn't be enjoying this power because it's meant to help them fight, but he does sometimes enjoy it. He likes becoming animals. And then he mentions, like, for some reason, I'm the leader of this band of guerrilla fighters, which is a funny pun I like to throw in a lot. And he's like, I don't know why I'm the leader, and mostly I'm embarrassed when Axe calls me Prince Jake, but every once in a while, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty proud of being Prince Jake.
Weird.
It was a little weird, but, like, I kind of get it. I can see it. I'm not totally out of, like, oh, that's not something Jake would say. Like, I can make the leap. But, then he goes on to say that he's really proud when they win. He's also proud when they don't win, but they did their best in a bad situation, which is really just foreshadowing for this whole book.
I kind of felt that was a little weird, because, like, I got the impression before that, like, he's not proud because they have to do so many kind of morally ambiguous things. And,
yeah,
I feel like that's something you have early on when you haven't seen a lot of the bad shit. But I don't know.
I read it more like when he makes a really good call and when they come out on top, he's proud of his team and he's proud of what they've accomplished. Not so much like, yeah, he called me Prince Jake because I helped to lead this team to this victory. So I'm proud of that. Not so much like, I'm really cool.
Yeah,
but yeah, I could also read it as I'm really cool.
I mean, I'm really proud of them, but I'm sitting safely in a house.
Yes.
Not battling an alien invasion.
To the best of our knowledge, you could be hiding it.
Oh dear.
Oh man. Yeah. Whatever. It was weird. Yeah. So finally, Jake makes it to the barn, and inside he can hear Cassie talking to a hork-bajir.
Not this again.
I know, but this one's real sad, guys.
That's true.
So Jake walks into this horrible scene. On the operating table, there's this hork-bajir that is clearly a hork-bajir, but also very clearly something else. Like, something is wrong with this creature. Jeremy is standing with Cassie and Toby and is completely distraught. And Jake, when he walks in, he's like, listen, there's this hork-bajir. His name is Han Tanad, and he was the subject of a terrible experiment. Visor 3 is trying to create this underwater force because he wants to find the Pemelite ship. So he's making ships, and he's also experimenting on hork-bajir to try and make them have physiology to be able to, like, swim and breathe and everything underwater.
So...
all of the... yeah.
So were the Lyrans, like, Visor 1's thing? Like, he has no access to Lyrans? I kind of forgot.
Yeah, like, Visor 3 also...
I mean,
felt like he was working with the Lyrans, but yeah, you're right. That probably was more of a Visor 1 thing.
Yeah. Oh, well.
And also, I don't know that they have any more Lyran controllers after they figured out they could break their heads open and scoop out the brain that had the Yeerk in it.
Yeah, that whole book where they were on Lyra and they battled and Axe did some cool shit. Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot about that.
One of your least favorite books.
Was it?
I don't know. I felt like you didn't like it that much because it was another off-world book.
Yeah, I don't love those, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Except for the Howler one.
Okay, well, the Howler one was fucking amazing,
yes.
So... Fran Drescher aliens are my goal. That's my peak.
Anyway, sorry for interrupting. Even though I do it constantly.
Please, interrupt. That's what I live for, honestly.
That's what I live for.
It's what I live for. So the whole time that they're talking about this poor hork-bajir, he is dying in front of them. Like, he is struggling to breathe, and he starts this gurgling noise, and Jake just reacts. He grabs the oxygen tank, drags it over, and Cassie stops him. She's like, it's this valve in his throat. They tried to modify something to make him breathe underwater, but the valve is malfunctioning. I've tried to get in there and force it to stay open, but it was unsuccessful. It's useless. This hork-bajir is going to die. And at this point, Jara starts freaking out. He's going, no, Han not die. And it's because, Toby tells us, it's because Jara and Han used to be really good friends. Aww. And so Jara is trying to comfort his friend, and Toby's trying to comfort Jara and saying, like, it's okay. It's Han's time to go beyond. It's all fine. And then Han finally passes away and stops breathing. And it's this really, like, poignant moment of, like, Jake thinks, like, there was silence in the barn and suddenly there was one less creature breathing in here, one less creature on Earth.
I loved that line.
And then, it was, like, it was beautiful, and it was also this really, like, I don't know, maybe I'm too close to a death right now, but
oh no,
it's like, no, it's fine. It's like that moment where it's like really kind of small and like intimate and right there in front of you, and then you get that like kind of broadening sense, like, oh, like this person or this animal will never exist here again. And it's like it captured that exact like kind of like zoom in, zoom out that is really, I think, truthful towards, you know, dying and death.
Yeah.
So yeah. So there's that beautiful moment, and then Jake looks towards the rafters, towards the opening where Tobias always flies into the barn, and he can see that now it's almost sunrise, and he thinks, sunrise on a new day that Han will never see. And then Cassie calls to him, and Jake just opens his arms to her, and they hug each other, and they hold each other until Jara and Toby had carried off Han's body.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah, it's really sweet and really deceptive towards the rest of this fucking book.
It is! It truly is! It's so heavy in the beginning.
Yeah, and like at this point, it's like, oh, this is gonna be a book about the hork-bajir, and it's gonna be
ship and
the Pemelites. It's gonna be really heavy, and we're just then it just keeps going. This is the silly straw. This is the first turn of the silly straw.
Oh my god, you're totally right. Holy shit! Metaphors, man.
I told you, this is my grand thesis where I'm wrapping this all up into a gift.
This is amazing.
Oh, man. So the whole team meets in the barn the following morning, and there's only a quick mention of where Jake goes. This is just where a few hours earlier Han died, and now it feels like a totally different space that the whole team is here. And they're discussing what to do about the Pemolite ship, because when Han was dying, Toby did mention, like, they're trying to find the Pemolite ship. That's why they're making all these forces. And Jake had already sent Ax and Tobias out earlier to collect information from both the hork-bajir and the Chee. So now they know the location of the Pemolite ship, which is a Navy testing ground with many unexploded items, which they really make it sound like that's going to really factor into this book later on. Spoilers, never fucking matters.
I know! Oh, I was so excited.
I know, right? This sounds like it's like a really cool mission that they're leading up to.
Yeah.
So, anyways, they have a few guesses about the nature of the Sea Blade, and the team is trying to come up with a plan. But Jake points out now, in a very introspective moment, that at any given time when they're planning this mission, half of his team is going to be really difficult. And he includes himself in that. He goes, sometimes I'm the most difficult one. So right now he's like, Ax and Rachel are doing exactly what I expect of them. Ax is like, spitballing, willing to go on the mission. Rachel's like, let's kick some ass, that's fine. But then he's going, but Tobias hates water missions. So no matter what he says, Tobias is going to be upset about this. Marco doesn't even think we should go on this mission. He's like, this is a total bust. Who cares if, about the Pemolite ship? They can just move it. And Cassie is, like, bloodthirsty. She wants to go exact revenge for what Visser 3 did to the hork-bajir. And that's what Jake is the most worried about.
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, you are not giving Tobias enough credit, because he did amazing on the last water mission, if you don't remember.
Yes, he did.
Oh my god.
Yes, he did.
Ugh. He was a good boy, conquered his fear, for the most part. I mean, he's probably never going to love water, but I don't know.
Right. And Tobias isn't complaining. Jake is just mentioning, like, I know Tobias hates this shit. So, yeah, he's not giving him enough credit, but also Tobias is not, like, having a meltdown in the background that I'm not mentioning because I'm an unreliable narrator. Like, this is on Jake.
Yeah. But, maybe it's just him kind of, like, just being extra sensitive to Tobias as he is wont to do,
Yeah.
Yeah, like, the other thing is, Cassie being vengeful over Han. That was interesting.
Yeah. And, like, normally, she holds on to this stuff. Like, this upsets her. This is horrible. And it is horrible what happened to Han, but, like, this is so not like Cassie.
Yeah. Like, the only other time I've seen her actually, like, want to kill somebody is Visser 3's little brother.
Yeah.
But
yeah, where she made Jake do it.
Yeah, where she wanted Jake to do it. And, but that was, like, preemptively to save that little boy.
Right.
And no, I don't know if it was to save him, but whatever. It was preventative.
It was.
It was preventative.
Yeah.
It wasn't revenge. So yeah, this is...
Right.
I don't know. It was weird.
Well, and the guy was, like, a serial killer.
That's true.
Like he
needed to
wasn't
going to
stop. Yeah.
Um...
Not that Visser 3 isn't, but, still.
Yeah. But, like... So, like, in Ax's, in the cow book, with the chimpanzees that they were testing on, like, she didn't... Mm-hmm. She was upset about that, of course, but it was more like a sad upset, like, I accept this is a factor of our world, but I still don't like it, so I'm gonna free these chimpanzees. But, like, she wasn't like, I'm gonna kill the fucking Visser 3 for messing with these chimpanzees. Like, so this feels... Yeah. This is the only other situation I can equate it to. But it just feels weird.
It feels very weird. And, like, unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
Because it didn't drive or detract from this mission in any way.
Yeah. And, like, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like maybe part of the reason she's extra upset is because she mentioned when Han was dying that Visser 3 did not take into account the physiology of the hork-bajir, and he just, like, kind of tried to splice these new parts and organs onto them. And she was, like, commenting on how, like, stupid that was. So it's like, is she, like, personally offended by Visser 3's idiocy and lack of caring about doing a good job making these weird mutations. I don't know.
Maybe, okay, this is a stretch, and I'm kind of playing devil's advocate because I agree with you, but maybe if we go all the way back to book 4, Cassie's reason for fighting in this whole war is to save animals, to save Earth, because that's where her alliances lie, is she wants to save all of nature and not let the Yeerks destroy things. So maybe him just kind of slapping gills and a few other organs onto a hork-bajir and like trying to throw them in the water, like, God. Here, go work. Yeah, she's kind of like, here is like a very like small example, like a micro example of what he wants to do to like the macrocosm. Like this is what he will do to the Earth and how he will pervert it and destroy it and let it die. And maybe it just like reignited that fire for her.
Yeah, I like that actually. Like, you know, if he takes over Earth, what is he going to do to all these creatures? Like, he's either going to wipe them out or he's going to, like, bastardize them for his own gain. So, oh my God. Ooh, I like that. I like that headcanon.
We've done it.
Awesome. We cracked the case.
Oh. Yeah. This is a really intense start to this book.
Yeah.
Oh, although I should mention before I say this is really intense and like we really get like poignant with this, in the background of this whole thing, they are having a conversation about acquiring the new orca at the gardens named Swoosh because Nike won the contest to name the orca.
Ugh. Also, no whales in captivity.
Yeah. Yes. And also, they specifically say one orca at the garden. Don't isolate your orcas. These are group animals. And also, no, do not put them in captivity. And oh my God. And I have so many whale updates now that I've completely forgotten that I've collected for this show. And I just realized I've never said.
Like updates meaning real life examples of why?
Yeah, so you know the Russian sea pen orcas and belugas? So the Russian government came down and said, you've got to release these guys, which nobody expected. Everybody's like, Russia is not going to give a shit. So it was a major victory. The problem was they were asked to rehabilitate them for release, and they just drove them like across Russia and let them go in the ocean. Jesus. But looks like most of the animals did at least go towards where pods are. It's only the youngest killer whale has been hanging around in the bay begging for fish from people.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So
I hate that.
It's horrible, but maybe not a total loss because it does look like some maybe got back to other whales.
Yeah.
But yeah, the baby's not doing so good.
No.
Also, we've lost like 2% of the right whale population. There was 3 major boat strikes in Canadian waters. They found 3 of them dead. This is horrible. Why did I do this?
Why did you bring us into this sad land?
Oh my God, I don't know.
I mean, you know, people should know this shit though. Like, this is the reality of our situation.
Well, here's the real reality. Let me just get on my little soapbox here. This isn't news per se, but there is an orca at the Miami Seaquarium. It's this female orca. I'm blanking on her name right now, but she has lived there for like 50 years, and she's been alone for like 30 of them because her mate that was with her, Hugo, died of like an aneurysm smashing his head on the side of the tank.
God.
Some people suspect he killed himself, but that's maybe personification. We're not really sure. Yeah. So she's lived there alone. She's like the sweetest orca in captivity of all time. Her tank is too shallow, too small, but because it's been there for so long, every regulation they've put into place for orcas of this is how you have to keep them, she's like, her tank has been grandfathered into like, we don't need to worry about her. That tank's like 1 billion years old. She also has no shade, and she can't get out of the heat, and she lives with a bunch of dolphins and is like basically blind from the chemicals in the pool.
Oh my God.
It's horrifying. And there's so many people saying, you need to retire this whale. Like, she is a senior whale at this point. and you need to like put her in a sea pen, let her interact with her family that you took her from, because she was one of the whales from the Alaska drives when they were allowed to take orcas out of Alaska, which they haven't been able to in many, many, many years. They banned that completely. So she's not part of the Icelandic population that came in later. She's one of the original Alaska orcas. And like everybody's like, you got to get her out of there in a sea pen, let her live in retirement. And they are just like milking her for all she's worth, keeping her in this tiny tank, performing with her. And like, it's just like, she's literally one of the only whales that has not had like an aggressive incident with a trainer in captivity. So it's just horrifying. So that's my little soapbox of be aware of that. And I don't know, sign a petition or two, or
don't go to SeaWorld.
Don't go to the Seaquarium or whatever. Yeah.
Don't support this shit. Don't stand for it.
Yeah.
I have fucking, like, recurring dreams about, like, giant whales being kept in tiny cages in captivity. Like, I have dreams about this all the fucking time, and I always just feel so awful. Ugh.
Point is, do not keep killer whales in captivity.
Do not do this
And this is how we get back to swoosh.
Go watch Blackfish. I haven't seen it because I'm sad about it, but
I've watched it like 4 times. It enrages me every time. People should watch it to know. It is extremely sad, but like it's some of the stories about the orca, and like the worst part is that the trainers that they pick aren't people that are qualified to work with animals. They pick pretty people that look good in shows and like are really like upbeat to encourage the crowds. Like these people are not animal husbandry experts for orcas. And a lot of them love the orca. Like, they want to work with them and they truly love these animals. And then once they realize, like, how badly they're being treated and how horrible this place is for them, they're like, oh, God, we got to get out of here. And, like, a lot of the times they're like, well, I stayed for the whales for so long because I thought if I didn't take care of them, like, who would? They're already in such a shitty situation. So I feel bad because, like, I know that they feel bad, but also it's like, God, get a sea pen going somewhere, for Christ's sake. Like, we can't let Keiko be the only one. And that's the other thing. Everybody's like, Keiko wasn't a success. That's why they can't let other orcas in captivity go. And it's like, no, it was a success. Just because he got sick and died doesn't negate the months that he got to spend, like, being free and, like, going through the wild and talking to, like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, he never fully made it on his own. Like, he was never fully away from people, but, like, he got out there. And that's step 1.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know what happened to me.
I'm so mad about animals now. Fucking don't buy tiger cubs. Don't fucking do this shit. Leave wild animals in the wild, please.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Fucking so mad at Michael Jackson now.
Because he sang the Free Willy song?
No, because he had like wild animals.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I'm so sorry, that was the only thing I could think of when you said Michael Jackson.
Anyway.
I don't know, there's so much weird shit. Like, so I was reading something about Elizabeth Taylor the other day. I don't know why. Every once in a while I, like, remember she's a person and, like, she was a good horseback rider, so, like, I read something about her. I'm like, she rode horses. Interesting. And, like, they had a whole weird thing going on where they were, like, best friends and they do shit, like, buy each other elephants and, like, bring elephants to each other's house. It was very fucking weird. Yeah. And I'm always like... there was one article I was reading specifically where, like, oh, Elizabeth Taylor showed up at Neverland Ranch and said, like, I have a gift for you. I don't know if any of the setting there was true, but she showed up at wherever he lived and was like, I have a gift for you, and, like, brought an elephant in. I'm like, can you imagine thinking of another sentient creature as a gift? Like, that's the weirdest fucking thing I've ever heard. Garbage. It's complete garbage.
Yeah. Another PSA, do not give animals as gifts. Do not give puppies to your kids on Christmas. That's garbage. Don't do that.
Don't give chicks to kids at Easter or bunnies.
Yes, don't. Just, if you're gonna bring an animal into your home, make sure A, it's legal, and B, that you're prepared to take care of it. You fucks.
Yeah, for its entire life.
And not just when it stops being cute. You fucks. I'm sorry, I'm really mad. I'm really mad! Ugh!
Yeah.
God.
No, I agree. I'm extremely angry as well.
God. Just grinds my gears. Speaking of mad, Marco says some bad shit, probably.
No, Marco doesn't say any bad shit.
I just have a note in my notes that says Marco, period. And I was like, oh, he probably said something rude.
Not to the best of my memory.
Okay.
And at this point, we'd cut to Jake and Marco flying over the Yerkpool complex. They've just been doing surveillance for days because they figure at some point this Seablade is going to take off and they just want to be there when it happens. And Jake is like, I cannot wait to get home. I'm counting down the minutes until I can leave and go veg out on the couch. Axe and Tobias are on their way here to take over. I cannot wait to leave. And then they spot something directly below them. They realize they're flying over an empty lot, and it looks kind of weird. When they're directly over top of it, they can kind of see a disturbance that looks like, oh, it's a hologram or a force field or something. And then as Jake observes it, he's like, oh, you idiot. It's a brand new fence with razor wire on the top on an empty lot. Of course this is where it is. And so finally they're like, aha, something happened. And they're checking this out when suddenly the ship they had been waiting for rises up out of this hologram as if they said it was being lifted from below. And the noise was insane, but it's masked by the passing traffic. And they're like, oh my god, okay, what do we do? So Jake and Marco are planning this mission out at lightning speed. Jake's like, I'm gonna follow it, because Jake's like, I have a peregrine that's faster than an osprey. And they're like, I know. Ugh, peregrines. Only in a dive, Jake. Flying level, you don't have that much shit on everybody else. So suck it. Anyways,
Goodness.
it's leftover rage is seeping out now. So he's gonna follow this ship. Well, Marco goes and gets everybody else. Jake's like, you should pass Axe and Tobias, just send them, and then you keep going, get Rachel and Cassie. Great. Jake's gonna pursue the ship. He has no hope of catching it, and he knows that, but as long as he can keep it in his sights, he should be okay. So sure enough, this ship shoots up and starts flying, and Jake is like, fuck, I'm already screwed because I don't have any altitude. How many times has Tobias told me altitude equals speed? And so he's like struggling after this thing. Luckily, he's able to keep an eye on it, and he's like flapping as hard as he can because, of course, not only did he not get any altitude, it's now evening time, so there's not a ton of thermals. So he is just like dying. His muscles are screaming in agony. And finally, he gets to where the beach is. Jake's like, please dive, whatever you do, don't make me fly anymore. And luckily enough, or also logically enough, it is a sea ship. It splashes down into the water, and Jake dives in after it. And Jake is like, maybe I'm trapped in Morph. I don't know how long it's been. Hopefully not. And so Jake, like, starts demorphing. He's like, oh, great, this worked. And then he's a good boy again, but not for long.
He's a good boy again.
That's what it says in my notes. He is a good boy again.
I'm a real boy.
I'm a real boy. So, Jake hits the water, goes into the coolest morph ever, the killer whale, which is amazing. Like, okay, so here's like a really cool part of the book that when I was a kid, I was like, this is amazing. Because you know when you believe everything people write? And I actually thought that this was a real, like, I knew it wasn't a real experience, but I'm like, obviously the author knows. This was fucking amazing. So anyways, the animal brain, so the orca brain, can actually sense that there is somebody else, like, in there controlling the body.
Oh, so cool.
And Jake is like, yeah, it's so amazing. And Jake's like, I got a little nervous. Like, I know it can't hurt me in here, and, like, I'm in control, but, like, it's crazy that this creature is sentient enough to know that. So.
Oh, I loved it. This is the point I thought that, like, that was going to be a major kind of plot point.
Yeah, same.
Because he says in the description that he was like a weird mutation, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, it's the title of the book. They said the title of the book in the book. Yeah, so I thought he was going to, like, lose control of the morph somehow, or if they're going to battle for control, and I thought it was going to be like an Aldrea Cassie situation again.
Yep, or that the orca would, like, take over at a certain moment, or, like, yeah. But no.
God damn it.
This is another bend in the twisty straw.
I freaking love this metaphor. It's so good. So apropos.
Oh, God. It's insane. So, Jake fires off some echolocation. He sees this sea blade in front of him, and he's like, they've spotted me because they're completely stationary in the water, and of course they're gonna, like, know that I'm pinging off of them with the echolocation. But then a second later, a Navy plane flies over and ends up dropping this buoy with a sensor, and he's like, oh, we caught the maiden voyage of this thing. It's not that they know I'm here necessarily, it's that they're trying to track the progress of the ship. Okay, cool. And then he has a moment where he's like, oh, that's crazy that they can control the Navy. That's probably not good. Oh, well.
It's like a one-off comment.
Yeah, exactly.
Christ,
like, probably not good.
Make a mental note. We'll put a pin in that.
Yeah. Then, the most awesome thing the Yeerks have ever come up with happens. The ship cloaks itself, and it looks and sounds like a whale.
That's awesome.
It's fucking amazing. And, like, how like, they're blending in with their surroundings for real,
Finally, Visor 3.
Finally! 36 books in, not including Chronicles and Megamorphs, and they're finally getting it.
Maybe Visor 3 took what Visor 1 said to heart from the last book, that he was a completely incompetent idiot, and maybe he's starting to take some more intelligent measures.
He went home that night, pulled out his little Andalite journal, and said, today Visor 1 called me incompetent. Am I incompetent? Aww.
Cute. Oh, it's like a little snap journal that's like pink and fuzzy.
Yes, with the pen with like the spring and the star on the end of it.
I love this.
Yep.
That's so cute. Oh my god.
Except now that we're saying this, and as soon as you said the journal and him writing, all that's going through my head right now is fuck, the line from Firefly where today I was pompous and my sister was crazy. Yeah. That's all I can think now.
God. Yes.
Oh god. Okay. Anyways, Jake watches the ship cloak itself as a whale. Coolest fucking thing ever. And then, through some stroke of luck, the team manages to catch up to him at this point. Apparently they delayed long enough that everybody else was able to make it out there and morph to Orca. Great. And they're like, where's the ship? And he's like, see that big whale right there? That's the ship. And they start, like, following this thing, and as they're going, 2 wild orca join them. So they're like, cool, look, we got, like, 7 of us here now, or 8 of us here now. This is so cool. I don't know, however many there are. And then they're like, okay, let's split up and get a good look at this thing. And Jake splits up the groups, and then suddenly the Seablade turns and charges Jake's team. And Jake's like, oh no! The ship fires, and 2 halves of a whale fall away into the depths. And Jake freaks, right? Because somebody's dead.
Yeah.
So he's checking in with everybody, like, who is it? Is everybody okay? Who got hit? And it turns out that was one of the wild orcas, and it was just dumb luck that's the whale that they got first.
Rachel didn't sound off, though, so I got a little concerned at first.
Oh, yeah, she didn't.
He was like, oh, good, we're all accounted for. And I was like, excuse me, no, we're not.
Everybody important is accounted for.
Oh, Jesus.
That's mean. Why did I say that?
Rachel's your favorite, Alex. God.
I know. Maybe that's why I felt the need to be mean. Because I'm like, you're not paying enough attention to Rachel, so I guess she doesn't even matter to you.
She's your cousin.
She's your cousin, Jake. God. Yeah, whatever. Everybody's fine. They hit a wild orca.
Which is sad.
Which is really sad. It's horrifying. Yeah. So the ship fires on them again, and it slices off 3 feet of Jake's dorsal fin. And he's actually told, I think it was Axe that said, "You're hit." And Jake's like, "No, I'm not." And then he realizes, like, there's blood billowing out around him, and it's clouding the water all around them. And then he sees the part of his dorsal fin falls away, and he's like, "Oh, fuck, I am hit." Then this thing fires again, hits Jake again, and he's getting sliced up. Like, he's really badly injured. And both Axe and Cassie are like, "You've got to demorph. You have to do this right now." And Cassie gets below him and starts pushing him up towards the surface. And Axe comes and helps her. So they're switching off, pushing Jake's body up towards the surface. I know. And Cassie's trying to walk him through the demorph because at this depth, he can't morph his lungs yet. So Cassie's like, "You have to start healing, so you gotta demorph the bottom half of your body first and, like, work your way up." And she's trying to, like, walk him through how to do this, and...
I'm in a stream!
Yeah. And she's like, "I'm gonna teach you how to be in a stream, too." Jake's not good at this.
I mean, he's, like, dying, so...
He's dying. And he's also, like, the more human he gets, the more he realizes how far away he is from the surface. And Cassie tries this trick that I believe she did with Rachel in an earlier book, where she tries to breathe out a bubble of air so that he can, like, suck it up and breathe through it. I believe she did that in a very early Rachel book.
Maybe.
The one where Visor 3 says, "Eeny, meeny, miny, moo," and Rachel's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Why do I remember that and nothing else about that book?
No. They were, oh, God. Now it's gonna bother me, too.
That was Cassie's book, right? Where they got Axe because he was chasing them. So that was where they rescued Axe from the...
Yeah, and they were dolphins.
Okay. So book 4, yeah.
Oh, Lena, you're so cute.
So that, yeah, bringing it back from book 4. Anyways, Jake gets some air. It's not good enough. He starts to pass out and die. And then finally, Cassie gets him up above the surface, and he kind of comes back to consciousness. Jake rolls off of her back and is like, "Go back. Get back down there. You gotta go help." And Cassie's like, "Please, take a minute to rest." And Jake is like, "Absolutely not. You get back in there." And Jake starts morphing back to Whale immediately. As soon as he's morphed, he dives down, and he can hear his team kind of sniping back and forth at each other below. Like, he mentions it sounds a lot like when you're listening to radio chatter during a dogfight, which was a very cool way to think about this. So he gets back down there, and they're trying to coordinate an attack at this point, but the blade ship, or the sea blade, has kind of figured out what they're doing. So it's diving to get below them so that they can't get below the ship, which is what they want to do. Axe is also badly injured at this point, is missing fins and stuff, and Jake orders him to the surface to demorph, and Axe goes, no, I have to stay down here and help you. This is not going well. So Jake's like, "Okay, well, let's, like, once again, Animorph style, flip the game board over because we're losing, and let's all just charge this thing in a line." So they do. They line up, they charge the ship, and, like, they ram it, and they all go bouncing off in different directions, stunned. And Jake takes a second to, like, figure out which way is up and down, and once he rights himself, he sees that they've actually done some serious damage to the sea blade. It's, like, listing sideways, it's leaking out this black liquid, and then whoever's on the ship just gets pissed off, so just starts firing Draken beams fucking everywhere and turning this thing into, like, a shit show slaughterhouse.
I wonder who that could be.
Like, yeah, who would do such a thing? So yeah, like, there's fins flying off. Somebody got their guts, like, their stomach opened up, their guts are coming out. Somebody has both of their pectoral fins sheared off so they can't swim. And so Jake's, like, trying to, like, lift others up to the surface, and everybody's, like, trying to help each other up. But it turns out Jake also got injured very badly once again, so he also needs somebody to, like, help him towards the surface. Once again, he starts to lose consciousness as he's demorphing, because he's like, "Everybody demorph, we'll make smaller targets. It's a great plan," except for the fact that, once again, they are so far below the surface, humans can't survive. This time, it's Rachel that helps Jake. So Jake's demorphing, he gets to human. Rachel just comes up under him as a whale, and to get him those last bits he needs to breathe, like, she realizes they're short on time. So she just powers up and, like, jumps, launches Jake into the air, Like, you got to imagine 30 feet in the air. And he, like, is going from almost unconscious to hitting near the surface with teeth on him. That's what initially wakes him up, is he's like, oh God, there's teeth on me. And then gets launched into the air. He's like, I'm awake now. And then belly flops into the ocean and, like, comes up sputtering and coughing. Like, this is not a good few minutes for Jake. Yeah.
I thought this was a pretty fascinating mission because, like, usually when something goes horribly wrong and somebody gets, like, really badly injured, almost dead, they just cut and run. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they just keep, like, going back was really interesting to me.
Yeah, and, like, they mention later, like, they start talking later on about how, like, getting the Seablade is really important. We have to get rid of the ship. But at this point, we don't see any reason why they can't, like, leave, regroup, and come back to fight the Seablade another day. Yeah. Yep, they just keep going to the sidelines, like, demorphing, remorphing, coming back.
Tag team.
Yeah. Yep. So a few minutes later, he morphs Orca for the third time, and most everybody else has demorphed and remorphed. One person went to Sperm Whale. Do you remember if it was Tobias or Rachel? I don't remember. It was one of those two. It's so unimportant that it doesn't come up again. And they're off again looking for the Seablade to make sure that it's destroyed. They find its trail because it's billowing black shit into the water. So, like, easy peasy, we can follow this motherfucker. And they see that it's still, like, listing and leaking fuel, and it's headed towards a cave. And they're like, oh, that cave doesn't look large enough to house that ship. Let's follow it and see if it's, like, trying to hide and if we can get another chance to destroy it. But then, right before it's going in the cave, they see some humanoid figures that are swimming around it. They're kind of winching it up and, like, dragging it into this cave, which just magically opens up wider to swallow the Seablade. And the kids are like, what the fuck? So, like, well, I guess we have to follow it. But let's not go as whales or anything that breathes air because we don't know what this cave is like. So they go to the surface, demorph again, remorph to sharks, and come back down. And there's this, like, moment when they're all bobbing at the surface as human that Jake looks around and sees them all with, like, their hair plastered to their bodies and their lips are blue because it's so cold. And they're obviously exhausted and, you know, upset and all that sort of stuff. And he's like, I feel horrible for asking them to morph again, but this is the life. This is what we gotta do. So, yeah, they head back towards the cave. They start swimming through it, and they were talking about how dark it was, how, like, this is one of those darknesses that just swallows you whole, and there's no sources of light. And, it's fine, though, because they can smell the liquid coming off the Blade ship. And this is when, like, Axe and Marco have this really weird exchange where Marco's like, we're following the fuel, and Axe is like, it could be coolant, or it could be the poops, basically. They could be in the poops.
The poop
Yeah,
stream.
they're like, the sanitation system could be leaking. And Marco's like, I choose coolant. So they get into this cave and follow it until they bonk into a wall. And they're like, somehow we're going through it. So they start to push their way through it. And that's when the shock happens. And I think it's Axe that's like, there appears to be an electrical current running behind here. And that's when the whole tooth thing happens, where it's like Rachel's like, oh, it feels like chewing on tinfoil with a mouthful of fillings. And Marco mocks her. Then this cave slowly opens to about a 4-foot diameter circle, and as it's opening, like, part of it is this blinding light, and, like, the cave is almost, like, kind of folding and swirling away, like, in a very weird pattern, and it's not a technology they recognize, it's something totally different. And they're like, well, we're going in, I guess, and so they swim through single file, even though this doesn't seem great. They make it into this tunnel, and while it isn't blindingly bright inside, like once they're through the opening, it is lighter, and they can see a bank on one side. They can see that there's a surface above them. So Jake's like, let's go see if this air is breathable. Goes up to the surface, demorphs, and he's like, it's humid, it's weirdly cold, but it's breathable. And so he calls the rest of the team up, and they all, like, demorph and start looking around at what's going on. And the first weird fucking thing they see is, like, a giant pirate ship, and it's completely preserved. Like, the sails are obviously not billowing, but they're raised, and this thing looks like it sailed right out of, like, a movie or a book.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. It was the Black Pearl. At this point, I think it's Tobias who's like, oh, with my great eyes, I spy dudes on this ship. And so they go over there and look at these dudes, and he's like, sure enough, there's dudes, but they're all dead. And they're like, oh no, that's not a good thing. They see another ship, a Spanish galleon. They report more dead dudes. And, like, not like there's skeletons on the deck and there's dead dudes. Like, there's perfectly preserved dead dudes that are set up like they're doing things, like reading maps or, like, mopping the poop deck or whatever. Like,
Creepy.
This is super weird. It's creepier than creepy. It's so fucking weird. And then the next thing they come up to, it looks like an entire curved black wall. And they're like, what is that? So they send Tobias up to scout it out. And he's like, yo, this is an entire Japanese aircraft carrier. Like, an entire aircraft carrier with planes on top of it. And the team is exhausted, but they're like, we have to go check out this aircraft carrier. There could be things on it that we want. It's like, climb on up there. There could be loot. We gotta go check it out. Who knows? So they climb up there, and Jake is really comforted by the sound of Axe's clip-clopping hooves behind him. Because he's like, I know he has that tail at the ready. Yeah, it's real cute. But Axe's tail blade is wholly unnecessary, because when they, like, jump into the ship to see what's going on, all there is dead guys set up to watch a screen, like, all staring in their direction. It's very creepy. And they're preserved well enough that the team isn't sure that they're dead. So Marco's the one who is like, hey, are we sure that they're dead? And Rachel's like, shut up. But, like, in a tone that implies she isn't sure if they're dead either. So Axe is the one that's like, Jake, would you like me to go examine the bodies? And Jake's like, yes. Thank God someone volunteered.
Axe always gets the shit jobs.
He volunteered. And Cassie went with him. They're like, oh, for Cassie, this was probably like some sort of sciencey thing that she would enjoy, I guess. It was weird. Like, their reasoning was so weird.
Okay. Oh, no.
Oh. So, the rest of the team, it sounds like when Axe and Cassie went in to examine the bodies, the rest of the team went back up onto, like, the aircraft carrier deck of the ship. Where, by the way, just, like, in the planes, there's creepy pilots smiling at them. Dead pilots. Yeah. This is super fucking creepy.
Also, why wouldn't you generally stay in that area because, like, on the off chance that the guys weren't dead, wouldn't you want to be there for backup purposes? I don't know.
Listen, I'm with Marco this whole
so
time.
Creepy.
I want out of here. I think every time we see a ship, my thought and my interaction is, this is too much. We have got to leave. I am with Marco this whole
I can't
time.
help you. You need to leave.
Yeah. This is beyond anything I can help with. We gotta call it a day right here. So, yeah. I'd be fine with this. I'd be fine walking away from this. Just saying.
That's fair.
Man, creepy. So, Axe and Cassie come back after a while, and they're like, yeah, those guys are totally dead. They're also stuffed with some sort of unknown substance, and then sewn back up with some vegetative, like, string. And
Haunted doll watch!
These are all haunted dolls. This is just ships full of haunted dolls. Oh.
Oh, God. That's the only thing I can think of.
This is like... You know when you go to House on the Rock? I don't, you've never been there,
No,
right?
but I got all your Snapchats.
So it's basically like you were there. So that room that you walk into, there's this, it's like multiple floors. Like you keep going upstairs and there's more and more floors. It's got to be like 8 floors tall. And in the middle is just a giant spinning carousel of haunted dolls. And on the walls, haunted dolls. That is this. This is that room.
It is not good. It's bad.
It's bad. And there's steps that you walk up and there's just haunted dolls everywhere.
Oh, I don't like it.
I hate it. I hate this. I hate it. I hate all of it.
As creeped out as I was...
We were going to go there after dark.
Oh.
Sorry.
What?
We were going to go there after
no.
dark. We agreed.
Oh, no.
And then we bailed. Because we had to go home.
Okay, good. Because you were like, I can't handle these dolls. The haunted energy is too pertinent in this room.
I was like, I can't see these dolls and then drive like multiple hours after this. I can't. I'll die. The haunted dolls will crash my car.
Dear God. As creeped out as I was about this scene, what happens next made me like viscerally uncomfortable.
Yes. So after Axe asserts that such lunacy could only be perpetuated by humans, they're like talking shit on the deck of this carrier, and then a giant squawk is heard, and a seagull with huge pale eyes, like the eyes are so big they touch like the beak, the top of the head, just gigantic, flies in. It like lands near them, and they just are staring at this fucking crazy seagull. It's so weird.
Oh my God. I literally shuddered. I shuddered and I stood up from my chair and I had to walk around my house for a bit because I was just like, oh my fucking God, that's gross. It's not even gross. It's probably natural evolution that happened, but I didn't like it for reasons I cannot truly explain.
It's just so uncomfortable.
Yeah, just the fact that they were it had huge eyes that were touching the top of the beak. That just, ew. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, their eyes are already birds' eyes are already very large in their heads. So imagining them bigger.
No. I don't want to.
It's just worse. It's just way
it's
worse.
like when they took the Beanie Babies and they had the little bead eyes and then they made the giant fucking scary icky eyes.
Oh my God, Beanie Babies are totally the Atlantis.
Oh my God,
Beanie
it's
Babies.
them.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
It's them. This is what happened.
They were so cute and then they ruined them.
Yeah, except for the bears. Fuck the bears. I don't know why everybody was so obsessed with the bears as Beanie Babies. They're so dumb.
Because they were worth a lot, I guess. Or everyone was like, they're gonna be worth a lot, and then they weren't.
Listen, if you're into Beanie Babies for the money, you're not into Beanie Babies for the right reason.
That just reminds me of that couple that you told me about that got divorced and they were dividing up their Beanie Babies.
Oh my God, in court? Yes. Oh my God.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, I was in it for the love of the Beanie Baby. Yeah. I wanted them jellyfish. Them rainbow jellyfish. Yeah. Good Beanie Babies. Okay, anyways, we got to stop talking about Beanie Babies. Yes. Yeah, so this bird was very clearly adapted to life in the dark. And Marco once again says, "We have got to leave! We can't do this, Jake!" And Jake's like, "Nope, we're going in." So they keep going, and Jake's like, "Everybody get to Owl. Tobias, you stay as a hawk for reasons unbeknownst to me." And they go flying down this weird-ass river cruise of horrors and see a ton of different ships from all different time periods with dead people stuffed in them. There's so many haunted doll people. It's horrifying. Finally, there's some light up ahead. And then the team, heads towards I didn't really get the scene here. So, from what I could tell, there was, some opening in this cavern, and it was smaller, and like the team approached it to kind of view where the source of the light was coming from, and they just kind of got sucked through and tumbled out the other side. And Tobias literally says, "What fresh hell is this?"
Yes.
He gets it. It's an entire city made of sunken boat parts.
Cute.
Like, cute. This is the aesthetic I want to bring to my bathroom. It's fucking crazy. There's ships like stood on end, and then like different floors are like escape rafts that are hung differently. The very middle pillar of this whole city is like a giant cannon, and it's covered in like silver and shit. Like, it's very ostentatious. It's horrifying.
I hate it.
I hate it. I hate the aesthetic that they have made in this town. Like, maybe the boat parts are cool, like sunken boat parts, that's kind of cool. A giant cannon that they cover in silver and gold doesn't do it for me.
I don't like it.
I'd love to see the Queer Eye team do a number on this town.
Yes. Yes. Bobby, fix it.
Bobby, fix all of this. What are you going to do with the cannon, Bobby?
Oh my god.
So then as they're creeping on this town, they notice there's a bunch of humanoid creatures walking around, but they have very blue, oily skin. Rachel comments on the oiliness of the skin and how she hates it. Like, it's her okay, so this is how it goes down. They're talking over what these people are like. They have the gills, the webbed feet, the blue, oily skin. Rachel's like, oh, blue skin. And she's like, kind of like referencing Axe. She's like, not that there's anything wrong with blue. I like blue. Blue's a great color. But
I have a blue house with a blue window.
No. And everything that they see is just blue, like him, inside and outside.
Thank you for jumping on my train.
This isn't even the first time this month that I have said that song instead of sung it.
Oh my god. Oh no.
Oh, what is Eiffel 65? So, in the middle of this town, they see that the Seablade has been pulled into some sort of a port, and hork-bajir are being led off, manacled to each other. And Wizard 3 is nowhere to be seen, but they're like, he's probably morphed on the ship like the fucking coward he is.
Oh!
Burn! That was burn from me. They didn't say that. They were like, he's hiding.
That's it.
That's it. So Jake assesses the situation, and he's like, well, if the hork-bajir are contained and Wizard 3 isn't here, it's gonna be, like, difficult for them to get out of the city, especially because in 3 days, all of those Yeerks are getting starved out. And this is the point where Axe is like, cool story, Jake. We only have 20 minutes left in Morph. And Jake's like, okay, let's refresh these Morphs and then get the fuck out of here and let these guys, like, you know, they're already captured. Fuck them. So the kids fly away from the city, and they're just flying over this giant field of, like, lily pad type stuff, like seaweed, slimy seaweed, lily pad shit. They notice that there's like some fake stars above them and like fake clouds. They're not really sure how this entire atmosphere thing is working in this underwater cavern, but whatever. They land on these slimy seaweed beds to demorph, and Tobias is acting as a lookout, but not good enough, because once they get back to human and Andalite and are slipping all over these things, the creatures jump up out of the water below them, these humanoid gill guys, and capture them in a large net. And Tobias apologizes, and Jake's like, oh no, I fucked this up. Tobias was watching the skies, but this is a land of water. Yeah. Jake says this multiple times. It's like, there's another book where this happened, where, like, it was all about, like, perspective shifts or whatever, and they kept, like, having to reiterate the same thing. Whatever. Jake keeps forgetting. This is a land of water. Rachel's like, I'm gonna go grizzly and fuck him up, and Marco's like, hell yeah! And Jake's like, no, we're not gonna morph now. We don't know where Wizard 3 is or his hork-bajir, and we don't want to give ourselves away. And Axe is like, well, I am an Andalite. I could cut my way out of the situation. Axe offers this perfect, easy solution that makes total sense. And Jake's like, I don't want to start a fight. Let's just be captured.
Okay.
What? What the hell?
Okay.
What the hell, Jake? Like, this was the most implausible point of the book for me. This is the drinking beer of this book. This is why I drink. Decisions like this.
He was really curious about the Atlantis people.
That's what it boils down to. He just wanted to know about the Atlantis people. There's no reason to just be captured. So anyways. Anyway. I'm gonna get over it eventually.
Are you?
No. It's been like 20 years. I'm still not over it.
Dear God.
So, also, the other thing about this book is I think this is one of my original books, and it got very wet, which I thought was thematically appropriate. It is very warped.
Nice.
So anyways, the kids are dragged down a wet, slimy hallway, and they can hear, somewhere in the distance, hork-bajir crying out in pain. And they're like, just ignore it, it's probably fine. They're dragged into this room where they're just unceremoniously dumped on the floor, and they're like looking around. They realize they're in front of this huge purple velvet throne encrusted with silver and seashells and probably mother of pearl because it's thematically appropriate. This throne is surrounded by armed guards, which are these blue-skinned humanoid creatures, and they're carrying the strangest assortment of weapons ever. Like, one of them has a bow and arrow, one of them has a submachine gun, one of them has a mace. Like, just whatever. It's a free-for-all in the weapons department. And they're like, whatever, this is cool. Then they realize that on the throne, there's this blue-skinned queen lady sitting with gigantic eyes. And they once again talk about her eyes and how, like, they're the size of oranges, and each one of her eyelids is, like, like half of a peel of an orange, like closing down. Like, it's very creepy sounding.
Yeah.
This queen starts off by going ni hao, and the kids are like, oh, that's Chinese. And then, like, she goes on, she says, like, German. She's like, guten tag, and they're like, oh, well, closer, but not quite. She tries Portuguese at one point. Then finally she lands on French, where Jake is finally able to be like, oh, bonjour, parlez-vous français, or parlez-vous l'anglais, because we're not in France now. Sorry. My bad. And the queen, like, their kids are talking the whole time, by the way. But once Jake asks, do you speak English? The queen's like, of course I speak English. I speak perfect English.
Then why? English?
Yeah. Then why didn't you fucking switch to English when they were talking English right in fucking front of you?
Yeah, and especially when she makes a point where it's like, oh, English is like the most common language in the surface world or whatever. It's like,
so why didn't you lead with that over Chinese, you dumb idiot?
Yeah, also, this scene is pretty much exactly the same scene from Disney's Atlantis. Like, where the explorers meet the citizens.
Yeah.
And she, like, tries a bunch of different languages, and they eventually, like, land on English. And I was like, oh, I know what this is.
Oh, yeah. That word for word is what happened.
Yeah.
Just that scene.
But yeah, God.
Yeah.
You dumbass.
Yeah. And Marco's the only one that appreciates her sass. He did say, like, oh, a sassy queen. That's new. God, Marco. So Jake is surprised, but, like, he very quickly adapts to what's going on. And the queen introduces herself as Queen Soko and just demands that they attend a Nartek feast that night. They are the Nartek. They're holding a feast. Jake and friends are going. They have no other option. And Jake was like, I've never felt more like Picard than I do in this moment. Like, this is first contact with an alien species, and I am freaking out but trying to play it super cool. And then the queen just ends this all by saying, try not to escape. That's an order. Go explore the city.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Whatever. So they cut to dinner, where all the kids are sat at this table made of old weathered wood from a ship. And the chairs that the kids are sitting on are cobbled together from parts of badly destroyed vessels. But the queen and her entourage are sitting on captain's chairs that were stolen from the various ships.
Jeez.
Yeah. A little obnoxious. So all around them, the table is piled high with fresh, raw fish. Some are whole, some are cut like sushi. Then there's these steel bowls that are filled with seaweed. And then they have cups that are filled with some green liquid shit. And Marco, like, picks up his cup and is observing it. And he can, like, make out this Russian logo on it. So they're like, oh, these are clearly all salvaged from the dead people. Great. They're trying to come up with a plan, but, like, Jake's, like, really in his own head because the only person he can listen to is Axe. He can't really talk back. And they're trying to, like, figure out, how did we get into this mess in the first place? And what should I have done instead of this? And Axe privately suggests to Jake, like, hey, why don't you ask about the history of these people? So Jake's like, yo, Queen Soko, how did this shit show happen? And she
What
like,
is your damage?
What is your damage, Queen Soko? So she closes her eyes for like a full minute, and when she opens them again, she stares up towards the ceiling. And Jake realizes when all of the guards and stuff take this reverent sort of pose or whatever, that this is some sort of a ritual. So she tells this like really insane story about like how once these people used to be island dwellers in the middle of the ocean, but the island that they lived on started to sink, so they built the walls. The island continued to sink, so they built the walls higher and higher until finally it narrowed and they met together and formed a dome over our city. And then the city continued to sink and the oceans closed in upon us. And we might still be sinking, who knows? And then she talks about, like, we got the glowing rocks that cover the cavern, and our bodies adapted at an impressive rate because we're so wonderful. And this whole time, Axe is, like, backseat commentating to Jake, like, this story's completely implausible. That's bullshit. Those rocks are definitely radioactive. That's definitely why they're, like, how they are now. And, like, it's just awesome. Like, I love Axe in this moment.
It's great.
He is great. This is probably, it's up there with some of my favorite Axe moments. So once she tells this story, she, I guess, ends it and like goes back to talking to them normally. And she's like, yeah, so anyways, now we find these ships that sink and we bring them in here and we study them and we figure out what the surface dwellers are doing and like follow the latest trends and it's all cool. And then someone goes, so what do you do when you're finished studying them? And she's like, oh, well, we preserve them. And Rachel's like, oh, so you kill them and stuff them. The Queen's like, yeah, we preserve them. Duh. So Jake's trying to think of other questions to ask. And the first thing he lands on is like, what are your plans for the Seablade? And Queen Soko goes into this Helmacron-esque rant.
Yes. Oh my God.
She's like, we're going to take the Seablade and we're going to wage war on the Sun Children. We're going to go to the surface and destroy all of them. And, like, she goes on for a decent amount of time. Who the fuck? Well, we know why a little later, kind of. I don't know. Kind of. Okay, so I'm just going to, like, skip ahead because it's, like, literally next chapter in this book. They, find a log and they find like it has the records, the census of all of the people in this Nertic city, and they're like looking at the birth and the death rates and they can see that they're declining, like the birth rates are declining, so there's less and less of them. And then they realize like the whole population is really inbred, so that they've been supplementing that population by when people come down there that are still alive, they've been taking their DNA and then using it to try and strengthen the genetic code. But that, of course, results in children that don't have gills sometimes because they're taking DNA from normal people. So the whole point is that they're going to go to the surface so that like their people can survive and also so that they can get more DNA.
Yes.
Like that's why they're going to war. But we don't know that yet. That comes up soon, I guess. It's nuts. This whole thing is insane, okay?
Yes.
There's no explaining this. So, once she finished this rant, Jake starts to ask, okay, so what about, like, the hork-bajir? And Marco just kicks him under the table. And Axe also back channels him and is like, don't say that. Don't ask about the hork-bajir. It's very bad. And so Jake's, like, trying to walk it back a bit. And the queen just goes, listen, no more questions. We're done here. She's like, remove the dishes, servants. So they start, like, taking shit away so that the queen can leave. And then the queen goes, I think it's time for me to question you. How did you get here? And Jake kind of, like, looks around at Axe and Marco, trying to, like, come up with something on the fly. And the queen says, I see. I'll give you time to work on your lie or to come to your senses. And, like, she starts to walk out of the room. But right before she exits, she adds, but I'm a magnanimous queen, so you may still explore my city. And then she leaves.
Okay.
Like, as soon as she's gone and the kids have kind of left and are away from, like, the group of the Nertech people, Marco's like, we have got to leave! And Jake's like, Marco, calm down. Like, everyone can hear you. You're screaming, okay? Just stop. So they go to, like, this whispered conversation. And they're like, what if we just left the Seablade? And Axe is like, yeah, even if these guys fly to the surface, it could do a little bit of damage, but, like, humans by sheer numbers alone will crush this thing. And they're like, great, fuck the Seablade, we're just gonna go. Like, fuck all this shit. And then Marco's like, oh, but they also have, like, U-boats and shit. They might have nukes. And Cassie's like, well, they can't, like, get through the codes on those nukes, right? Those are protected. Marco's like, yeah, probably not. And Axe is like, well, probably isn't definite, so we should probably destroy the Seablade then if they have nukes. And so the plan officially is A, B, and C. A, find Tobias. B, destroy the Seablade. C, haul their soggy butts out of there. That's the plan.
Hooray!
Yes. This is when we cut to the library scenes. This is like the next chapter. And this is when they're trying to find out why they haven't been killed yet. Naka is this guy that's their own personal watchdog. He's one of the Narteks that they're... whatever. This is where they go through the whole thing where they find out the census and the evolution and blah, blah, blah. This is why they're there. Cassie points out, like, hey, so this is probably the reason that they're keeping us alive at this point, is they're going to harvest our DNA. And Rachel's like, hey, Marco may finally get a girlfriend, which was... very weird and uncomfortable.
Rachel, no.
Rachel, not a good joke. Rachel, take that back. Yeah. And Cassie, there is a moment where she's like, this could be the only way for these people to survive. They're just lashing out because they're dying. But that never comes back into play. Like, another thing that, like, yeah. And then, like, also at this point, Axe goes, Prince Jake, have you thought about the fact that Visor 3 might still be on board the Seablade? And Jake is like, it's all I think about. It's literally my all-consuming, every waking moment thought is that Visor 3 might still be on board the Seablade. So we cut to Naka, the watchdog, leading them on a tour of the Nartek world. He's like... here is the first tier where all of the rich people live that we love. They're all well off and wonderful. Here is the second tier. You can kind of see it over there. That's where doctors and shit are. Then, way off in the distance, not even going to show it to you, is a third tier. That's where the poor people that make clothes live. And then, the criminals. They live in shanty towns. And, like, well... Naka is going through this whole thing. Marco drifts back to talk with Jake, and they're like, listen, they might have taken down Visor 3 already. Like, we gotta get out of here. And Jake's like, they didn't take him down. Like, we know that he's a wily dude, and he survives a lot. And they kind of get into this argument back and forth, while Naka suspiciously watches them, even though he can't hear them. And then, all of a sudden, more guards start appearing behind them. So, like, Marco and Jake break it off, and Naka's leading them again towards a hospital at this point. And these guards are flanking them now, and they're getting closer and closer to this hospital. And Jake's like, something's really off about this. Like, it doesn't feel right. These guys are a little too smooth. Like, maybe they've done this few too many times before. So, as they're being led onto this gangway that, like, leads over to where the hospital is, and Jake stops. He's like, nope, I don't want to go to a hospital. And Naka goes, oh, Queen Soko would be mortally offended if you don't go see our state-of-the-art hospital. Jake's like, nope, it's a hospital. I don't want it. But he didn't realize once again that he was on a gangway, so there's water surrounding all of it. And so Nartex shot out of the water, grab them, and knock them out. Yay!
Whee!
Yeah. Super helpful. Jake wakes up a little while later in a lab. He's in some sort of, lab-like facility strapped to a table. And Naka is there. And Jake tries to look around to see people, because he can kind of see, like, I think it was Rachel, Cassie. He couldn't see Marco. And he's, like, trying to figure out where everybody is. And Naka's just basically like, don't struggle, it won't do you any good. And Jake's like, what are you doing? And Naka's like, we're going to drug you up. We're going to kill you. We're going to take all your bones and your organs, grind them up. We're going to extract some DNA. And Marco at this point interjects, there is much easier way to get DNA out of things. And then he's like, yeah, but whatever. Then we're going to stuff you for educational display. And Rachel's like, okay, Jake, can we kick butt now? And Jake is about to answer yes, but then they start drugging these kids up. And, like, they instantaneously stop caring. Like, even Rachel is like, hey, what are you... No, never mind. This is fine. And, like, Jake's kind of having this almost, like, drunk moment, like TV drunk moment, where everything's kind of weird, and he sees these fishmen with knives, and... like, he can feel the cold metal pressing on his neck, but he doesn't really care. Then he notices another Nartek walking around. This guy's a medieval lance, and he calls him Sir Fish a lot, and then laughs, like, a lot. Like, too much.
Oh, no.
Then he notices Sir Fish a lot, lifts up the lance, and starts beating the crap out of the other Nartek. And then, even weirder, Sir Fish a lot starts to grow feathers. And then we kind of, like... cut to 10 minutes later when the drugs start wearing off. So Jake is able to move, and Tobias gives us this really interesting rundown. Like, he has been observing this town, and he found out that only about 10% of the population is strong enough to walk around outside of the water for any length of time. So the guards that they have posted everywhere, carrying weapons, surrounding the queen, that is all a show for these kids. Like, 90% of the population has to live in the water because they are so weak. And we can guess that that's a byproduct of the inbreeding stuff.
Yeah.
Then someone's like, hey, where's Axe, by the way? And Tobias nonchalantly goes, over there, in that little side room. So they, like, bust open the side room. They basically just shoved Axe in a refrigerator.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And Axe, like, gets out of there, and he's, like, bristling angry. Like, he leaps out of this thing, like, what the fuck? They didn't think my DNA was good enough to improve their shitty species?
I love it so much.
It was so good.
So mad.
He's so mad. And then he gets even better because Cassie's like, Axe, don't worry about it. The extraction process was a little intense. And Axe is like, I'm not afraid of needles. And Cassie's like, no. They cut you open and grind up your bones and organs. And Axe, like, not willing to back down from his rage. He's like, well, that's to be expected from human-type creatures.
Oh, my God.
Like...
the maddest.
Oh, he's so mad. And I love that, like, he did not back down from his rage. Like, that's so out of character for Axe, but it was so funny. It's like, I'm mad and I refuse.
Oh, my favorite.
Man. Then, there was no reason, really, for me to add this, but I love Rachel and Tobias, so...
yes! Oh my God, I love that!
It's this such a fucking adorable scene that I adored. Rachel gives Tobias a hug as best as she can because he's a bird. And then she's like, you cut it a little close there, Tobias. And he's like, yeah, it was like really hard to navigate this madhouse. And like the guy that I got the morph of was really weak, so it was hard to walk around for a long period of time. And Rachel like just kind of goes, well, I just hate it when we get kidnapped and without you and you don't come with us. And Tobias is like, yeah, I was worried about you too.
Oh
my God,
get
so
here,
cute.
Stupid cute kids. God.
Get out of here, you fucking adorable kids.
You babies.
I loved it so much.
Very good.
It was very good.
Like, it was sweet, but it wasn't, like, overly sweet from Rachel, because that wouldn't be, very appropriate for her. Cause she's not sticky sweet.
Right. Yeah, it was just her being, like, her normal kind of aggressive self, and Tobias just cutting through it. Like, I know what you mean.
Oh, I just love it.
I loved it.
Oh.
Adds almost nothing to the plot. I just had to leave it in. Sorry. So at this point, the doors to this lab are locked, and there's like a gathering of Nartek outside that are trying to bust the door down. So Jake's like, oh, look, there's a porthole out of the hospital. Let's check it out. So they all go bird. They fly out of there. And right as like the last person is making it out of the porthole, the Nartek breach the door. The kids like fly off. They find some alleyway in the city where they're like, okay, let's land here and like demorph, go to Battlemorphs. Great. And Marco's like, so basically we're going to do this Rachel style. And Jake's like, yes, let's do it Rachel style.
Yay.
Tobias leads the way because he's the only one that really knows his way around the city. And when they get to the Seablade, he leads them towards an open hatch and then dives in, but Rachel is only a few feet behind him. And so she goes barreling through the few Nartek that were trying to block this entrance. And they make it in. They're all trying to, like, work together to, like, slam the hatch shut. Rachel and Marco get it closed. Jake is like, Axe, can you control this thing? And Axe is like, no problem. I just had to bypass the security protocol. So they're in there. Axe is trying to work. And, like, as they, like, reach this main area, they stop dead. Because all around them, there are stuffed hork-bajir set up like they're controlling this thing. Like, the Nartek set up their weird educational scene. And Jake is like, we don't have any time to do anything appropriate with these bodies. We just have to push them aside and take control of the ship. So they literally just push aside all of these dead hork-bajir that all of them realize were alive, like, not that long ago. So they're all freaked out by it. And they just have to get to work. Meanwhile, outside, the Queen has managed to procure a large naval gun and is shooting at the Seablade. Jake knows that it won't stand up to this sort of assault for long, so he's like, Axe, how much longer? And Axe is really frustrated because he starts working on the security protocol that he thought was going to be easy to breach, and it turns out it is very complex. So Axe is working on this. The gun keeps firing, and it's rocking the ship hard enough to throw Axe off of his feet and, like, send people flying. And they finally hit and blow open the hatch. So Jake tells Axe, you stay on this, everybody else with me, Tobias rear guard, we gotta go and, like, basically just fight our way out of here. So they run to the hatch, the Nartek starts swarming in, and it's this bottleneck situation, so that's to their advantage, but they just have to, like, fight it out. So Jake is first, and he's, like, swatting them down and slashing and knocking them over and all that sort of stuff, and he's keeping them at bay for a while, and then he gets a spear to the head, so he kind of fades back. He lets Rachel step up. So she goes in there and she starts taking down a ton of Nartek. At one point she grabs one, uses him as a shield, which stops them from shooting, but they're still slashing at her and things. And she's doing well for a while, and then she gets a javelin through the shoulder, and so she has to back off. Marco's next. He's, like, punching through everybody. Cassie's tearing through everybody. Even Tobias gets in there, and because their eyes were such a huge target, he's, like, very easily disposing of the Narteks by blinding them. And Jake is like, this is fine for now, but something has to give. And that's when they hear this loud whoosh. Suddenly, from behind them, there's this very intense heat and light and flames. And these flames start shooting out at the Nartek and burning them alive. And it's this horrifying scene where it smells like burning flesh. There's bodies everywhere being burned alive. Even the dead ones are being burned. And that's when they realize it's the Visor. And I think there's a sassy moment where somebody asks, how do you know it's Visor 3? And Axe is like, this is this like phlegm blah 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 from the moon of blah blah blah. Of course it's Visor 3. And he's just kind of indiscriminately killing all the Nartek around them. And Jake doesn't like this. He's like, this isn't like the honor of one-on-one battle. This is just senseless killing. And then Visor 3 is like, well, Andalite, talking to Axe, he's like, why don't you take off? Oh, that's right, you can't. Not without my help. So there's this weird standoff. He's such a dick. And there's this weird standoff where they're like, he's like, you need my help to take off. Otherwise, we're going to be destroyed by these primitive human weapons, which, well, primitive, are effective at this range. And Jake wants to say no, and everybody's like, just say no to him, like, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. And Jake even says, like, and if I say no, and the Visitor's like, well, then I guess we just play this weird cat and mouse game until the Nartek catch us and turn us into weird creatures that are stuffed with seaweed and shit. And they're like, okay, great. And so Jake's like, why are you offering us this deal? And Visor 3 goes, I can't fly this thing alone, and my crew, and he gestures around to all the dead hork-bajir, are currently incapacitated. Nobody wants to make this deal. Literally everybody on the team is like, do not do this. Do not take this deal. No. And Jake's like, I'm going to take the deal. And Rachel's like, are you nuts? And Jake's like, I hope not, but we'll find out. And then he's like, all right, Visor, we accept your offer. So, the Visor gets a ship online and then basically steps back and says, okay, Axe, you do this shit now. He doesn't call him Axe. He doesn't know his name. He just says, like, you do this. And then he's like, and someone take the weapons station. And Jake's like, Rachel, go take the weapons station. Why not Marco, who's done this before? I will never know.
Yeah.
But whatever. And, yeah, he's like, Rachel, go take the weapons. Axe will tell you what to do. And then Jake goes and says, Marco, go hold the hatch shut. And Visor 3 questions him. When he sees Marco walking away, he's like, where is he going? And Jake is like, he's going to take the sword out of his chest, and he doesn't want to be in front of you when he screams in pain. Which was weird that the Visor just accepted that. And that Jake said that. I don't know.
Yeah. Whatever.
Whatever. And Marco's saying to Jake, like, hey, man, I can hold the hatch now, but if we go underwater, I cannot hold this thing against water pressure. It will not work. And Jake's like, just go. Like, it's fine. We'll figure it out. We've got this. So Jake orders them to fire. Visor 3 gets extremely upset. He's like, I give the orders on this ship. And Jake's like, not to my people, and, like, blows him off. Like, Visor 3 doesn't even say shit back to him. Like, Jake just totally shuts him down.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So they start, like, blowing through the cave, and they dive under, like, the kind of, like, river part of the water, but, like, nothing deep right now, so Marco's still able to hold the hatch. That's about the time they realize there's a German U-boat following them. And
Hooray.
so Axe, yeah, creepy, okay? So Axe instructs Rachel, like, hey, here's how to fire on just the rudder to disable the boat. You won't kill anybody. Great. Rachel does it. Awesome job. The thing flips over. It's all great. And Visor 3, of course, is just sitting back here this whole time and mocking them. Like, oh, the sensibilities of Andalites, they won't do this. And, like, of course the Andalites have their high moral ground until it doesn't serve them anymore. And then they change their tune. Like, just going off and not helping at all.
He's such an asshole.
He's such an asshole. So that's all going down, but they're interrupted because this U-boat fires off some torpedoes at them. And that's about when Jake's like, all right, the grand master stroke that I've been working on. And he's like, okay, Marco, let go of the hatch. Axe, kill the engines. And the water from the hatch being open just floods the ship, like, very quickly. And Jake has just enough time to say to Visor 3, how well does that fire creature morph of yours work underwater? And of course it was already, like, the flame was going out. It was going very badly for Visor 3. So he starts demorphing to get out of there, and Jake orders Rachel to grab Tobias, hold on to him tightly, because he's a bird and they're about to go underwater. Visor 3 is doing his own shit, not paying attention to anybody, and then the first of the torpedoes hits the ship, and the concussive powers of it just knock Jake senseless. Like, his eardrums go crazy, he bumps into, like, the part of the bridge, and he's confused, doesn't really know up from down, but the tiger does, so he goes on instinct alone, starts swimming up. Another of the torpedoes hits the ship, and it kind of breaks open. Everybody gets sucked out of this hole that's just appeared in the hull of the ship. and they start going fast towards the surface. Jake makes it all the way to the top, bursts out of the water, and then like just starts breathing and like demorphing and getting okay. And they find out that they're right by the Japanese ship that they saw earlier. So Jake takes a look at it and then starts sinking down to demorph and go to Hammerhead. Once he makes it to Hammerhead, he goes and meets up with the rest of the team. 5 sharks, 1 orca. Cassie was the orca. For some reason I notated it here. Who can tell? He asks if anybody has seen Visor 3, and Cassie goes, yeah, I echolocated something that looks like some sort of squid-like creature making its way towards land, so he survived, but barely. And they had survived, also barely. And Jake realizes that all of his decisions that he made today would keep him up at night for a long time, but he had learned to live with it and to do better next time and to be happy with the fact that everybody got home alive. Rachel interrupts this internal dialogue by saying, we gotta destroy this place. This place fucking sucks. And Axe is like, well, it wasn't a pleasant place, but the people down here that they've preserved, none of this has to do with the Nartek. These weapons are all land weapons, modern weapons created by you guys. These ships, they didn't sink because the Nartek hunted them. They sunk in battles with each other in wars. Like, this has almost nothing to do with them. This is all on your people, not the Nartek people. And Rachel's quiet for a minute, and she's like, okay, well, that's fair enough. But if this war ever ends and the truth ever comes out, we need to come back down here to bury the dead. And that is how this book ends.
Whee!
Yes.
What a
yes.
nut house.
And this ending not ending, this final ending, is the just blindly searching around for the straw that never quite lands in the mouth appropriately because the point was not made.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's this book.
That was a book.
That was a book. We did a book.
I mean, there was some really good stuff in the book.
I will say that lately when I've been reading some of the books, like thinking back on the Cassie book and that sort of stuff, it's been difficult for me to take notes because it's been kind of a slog. Like, there's been a lot of stuff to get through that I haven't necessarily been pumped to, like, get through.
Sure.
But this one was really easy for me. Like, it was a really quick book to like, just kind of go through. And I think part of that was because of the one-off nature of it. Mm-hmm. And part of it was, like, it was kind of fun to have a silly romp, even though this is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's... Like, after I read it, I was like, oh man, that was kind of fun. But also it was crazy and it didn't, like, make sense with the rest of the series.
Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely bonkers, nut house insane. But it was kind of fun.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Some of the character decisions I didn't feel were super on point.
No,
but...
none of them. None of Jake's decisions were good.
There were a lot of dirty jokes. In this book.
Yes.
Like, we didn't call out any of them, but, like,
no.
God. Marco was just, like, out of control.
Yeah. They didn't land as offensively as they have in the past, for sure. But there was a lot of dirty jokes, yeah.
Oh, one reference that I really loved was when Rachel was a bear at the weapons station, Jake described her Trent Reznor nails, like, gripping the gun or whatever. And I was like, that was such an unnecessary reference, but I kind of love it.
Yeah.
She used her 9-inch nails.
Like, this was a book of unnecessary from start to finish.
It was very extra.
It was very extra. The overall feeling of this book was completely unnecessary, much like the Superman shirt that David Tennant wore in the GIF I sent you.
Dear God. We should post this GIF on the thing.
I'm going to, okay. I think. I think I have to before we do this episode.
Yes.
Do we want to, like, go into character ratings?
I guess, because, like, all the rest of my notes just have to do with characters mostly.
Okay, how do we feel about Jake?
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Jake.
Do you want to come back to him at the end?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, what about Rachel?
Rachel's excellent.
Yeah.
Like, what can I say?
She is amazing in this book.
She's just great. 5.
5. Straight 5.
Well, she did have that bad joke about Marco getting a girlfriend, which I didn't.
I'm dismissing that because of her excellent moment with Tobias that I felt necessary to call out for no reason.
Oh, another moment that they had was when they were orcos and they were attacking the ship. She and Tobias, like, rammed the ship together. Like, each of them, like, took a side and rammed it, and everyone was like, whoa, good hit, you guys! And I was like, oh, look at them, they're like a little dream team.
Was that the one where they rammed it and Axe goes, that is an impressive dent?
Yeah.
Yes.
I loved that.
I love that. I love that, too.
It's great.
I love that so much. It was great. Okay, then what do you feel about Tobias, since we're already here?
He's good.
Yeah. He's kind of missing for a lot of the book.
Yeah, he was a bird. He was a bird. Not doing much, but then he came by in the end and saved everybody.
Yeah, he had multiple epic saves, and he never once complained about being underwater.
Yes, even though Jake said he was going to, and Jake was wrong.
Yeah, Jake was wrong. I'm giving him a 5. Fuck it.
Okay.
What do we feel about Axe?
Cackles. My good boy. I don't know. He's very good, but also he needed more quips, I think. Okay, here's how I feel. I think a lot of the characters were really funny in this book. Like, Tobias, Rachel, Marco. But, like, there was a lot of, like, comedy kind of going on, I thought. But not a lot from Axe. Unless I'm, like, missing something.
No, there wasn't a lot of... Because I was looking out for it, too, in the book, and there wasn't a lot.
Yeah. Like, there was... I think with the amount of comedy that was in this book, I think there was plenty of opportunity for Axe, but he kind of was designated to the more... like, serious role. But he was very, like, I liked how academic he was.
Yeah.
And I liked, like, that whole scene where he was, like, telling Jake, like, oh, yeah, these guys are full of shit because of A, B, and C. And he wasn't, like, being an asshole about it, for the most part. Like, the only time he got a little speciest was when he was like, oh, yeah, this, like, primitive work is obviously the work of humans, blah, blah, blah. But... for the most part, he was just, like, really good and helpful, I thought. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think the times where he was funny, a lot of it had more to do with the situation they were in. Like, when he's really angry and coming out of the refrigerator, like, it wasn't his normal, like, let me quote a soap opera or talk about Cinnabon, but it was very funny how mad he was.
Yes.
So, I liked that, too.
Yeah. Okay, who am I kidding? I'm gonna give him a 5 because he's my favorite.
I'm gonna give him a 5. Were you gonna threaten me to give him a 5?
Oh, I'm sorry. Don't you dare not give him a 5. No.
I thought that's where you were going with that, and I was so relieved when 5 came out of my mouth. I thought you were gonna...
I'm sorry. No, I'm trying to reprimand my cat who's trying to ruin everything.
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
My heart rate's elevated.
I'm so sorry. And I'm sorry for my cat. She's been horrible these past few recordings. Goodbye.
That's okay. We can sell her to the circus.
The amazing 3-legged cat.
Da-da-da. What will she do? No tricks. She's a cat. Don't be stupid.
Just look at her.
Just look at her. She has 3 legs. Is that not enough for you?
Cassie.
Yeah, Cassie. I'm gonna... I have a rating. Do you want to go first?
I'm just... I don't know. There was that whole, like, vengeance thing, which was really out of character. And I don't know.
And didn't play out!
It didn't! And, like, they made such a big deal about, like foreshadowing for it. And then it just didn't.
It's like, okay. So there's the first, like, 3 chapters of this book where Cassie has the emergency. She rises to the occasion and does surgery off screen on a hork-bajir, which is something she was terrified to do with Axe, but she's clearly, like, gained some sort of confidence in herself and attempted that surgery.
Yeah.
Then there's the whole thing where she talks the hork-bajir through letting Han go and saying, this is too much. We have to know when it's time to say goodbye. And then she has the scene with Jake where they just, like, she goes to him for comfort and they just hold each other and have this moment that's sweet for them as a couple, but also, I think, important for them as teammates and, like, figuring out how to comfort each other in these roles that only they can understand as well as their friends.
Yeah.
Then we have the entire fucking rest of the book.
She started off so strong.
She did. She was amazing in those first few chapters. And then she got mad, and then she wanted vengeance, and then kind of not much of anything other than maybe feeling bad for the Nartek in the library when she realizes that they're inbred and they're trying to do whatever to save their people.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened?
It was, like, the biggest disappointment. Like, she was...
Yeah! It's the biggest tease that didn't play out.
It was! I thought she was going to play a major role in this book, especially since it's a Jake book, but...
Yeah, but not really.
I mean, she did... To be fair, she did do some awesome stuff as an orca and saving Jake and, like, trying to talk him through how to morph and, like...
Yeah.
Breathe through my blowhole, which I was a little, like, grossed out by, but that's just me.
I swear it's happened before. I swear it happened in book 4.
Yeah, but there was a moment where, like, Jake woke up and he was human and his mouth was, like, stuck to her blowhole, and I was just like, oh, I don't like that. I don't.
There's a lot of gross shit in this book.
It was, yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I was very disappointed with the way Cassie ended up being written. That first scene, though, was really good. But yeah, then it just kind of like...
Do you want to go first?
No.
Okay. I'm going to give her a 3.5.
Okay.
Because so much promise and then nothing.
Again, because it's totally Cassie's fault.
It's a little bit her fault. For being angry and vengeful. The rest of it's not her fault.
Yeah, because she was like, this whole mission is about vengeance. Like, she made a point. Everyone was like, oh, this mission's kind of pointless or whatever. She's like, no, it's about vengeance. And I'm like, no. Who are you?
Yeah.
What have you done as Cassie?
But then, like, nothing even comes of it. It's, like, not even like, oh, Cassie just went through this journey and this, like, clearly the war is wearing on her. And the book is about, like, Jake's going on this mission, but also he's trying to work with Cassie and, like, figure out how to heal her as a teammate and a girlfriend. Like, there's this whole story that they just lined up beautifully, and then nothing.
I know.
That's frustrating.
Okay, I'll agree with your rating.
You don't have to. Okay. What about Marco?
So many bad jokes. I realized, I looked back and I looked in the part where I thought he made a bad joke and then you didn't remember it. He and Jake were like scoping out the where the ship might be and near the mall, and he was like, "Hey, you looking at that girl in the bikini driving the Mazda?"
Oh, yeah.
All right. I feel like the lady jokes are increasing as the books go on, and I'm not a fan.
I mean, are they? Because we got less Baywatch jokes.
Yeah, true.
I feel like he just replaced the term Baywatch with ladies.
Yeah, and then when they were down in the city, he was like, "Ooh, that fish girl has a really nice body," and I was just like, "Please stop."
Oh yeah, that fish girl body one too. Ugh. Did he do any good things that we can redeem him on, or are we just gonna...
I mean, he took a sword to the chest and continued
Yeah,
to...
they've all done that.
Yeah,
Who hasn't?
I don't know. Like, we've talked about Marco and his misogynistic jokes to death already, but, like, it doesn't mean I am not continuously tired by it on a personal level.
Yeah.
I still love
like,
him, but stop.
Of course, yeah. And I feel like we've talked about this too, so I'll skip through it quickly. But, like, it's that thing of we can still, like, love a character with flaws even though, you know, even though we don't appreciate it.
I will still call him out on his bullshit.
Yeah. I agree. I don't know. I did think it was very funny when the queen was going on her Helmicron rant. Like, half of Jake's perspective while the queen was going on about, like, we will destroy, blah, 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 was just him shooting looks at Marco at every point in her speech that he knew Marco was going to insert a joke or do something dumb. So it was like, she said this, Marco rolled his eyes, I shot him a look so he didn't say anything. I could sense Marco was about to say something, so I kicked him under the table.
Yeah.
Marco was going to respond. So, like, that was funny.
Yeah.
I liked that.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess that's...
Fuck it. I'm giving him a 2.
Oh!
I don't know. I think he deserves it.
Yeah.
Okay, Jake.
I don't know. Again, a lot of questionable character choices.
He made so many bad decisions.
I mean, but he's made bad decisions before, but still in character. This time I felt like, I don't know.
This time it was more like, I've played the game the responsible way. What if I just try to, like, neg my character to shit?
Sure.
But, like, I didn't ever find him unlikable. Even when I was questioning his decisions.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed him.
Yeah. 3.75.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. 3.75.
I was very disappointed that we didn't get more of the Pemelite ship, our favorite NPC.
The Pemelites did not even factor into this book.
Nope. No Eric either.
No Eric. Brief mention of the Chi. No Eric. Didn't go to the Navy sub compound.
There was so much setup and then it just kind of diverted.
Into Atlantis.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I can only hope that the next book is better.
Well, it's a Rachel book, so...
Yep.
Is it the Cheetah Book, or is that...
Yeah.
Wait, it is?
It's the Cheetah Book, yeah.
Okay, this is exciting, because this is the only other Animorphs book I've ever owned. I don't remember...
You owned it?
I had book 3, and I had this book with Rachel as a cheetah. I don't remember one thing from it, but I'm excited to read it again and see if that still holds up.
Okay. I can see why your Animorphs career was short-lived.
Oh, no!
You had a wacky amount of books, my friend. Book 3 to this Cheetah Book would be a wild ride.
Oh, my God. I'm so excited.
I'm... Not to get too far ahead of myself, but I am more excited for the Axe book that comes after it.
There's an Axe book coming. Oh!
Yeah,
Yay.
and it's gonna be a buck wild.
Awesome.
So, but first we have a Rachel book, and I am extremely excited to get back to Rachel, into my little comfort zone bubble that is Rachel.
I like it.
Yeah. Should we...
Let's
wrap this shit show up?
Yeah.
All right. If you want to talk to me about my gift theory that I just made for you, my master symphony that I wove for you in this audio podcast, you can email those thoughts and I assume praise to me at anonymousanimorphs@gmail.com. You can also tweet it to me at animorphsanon. You can respond to another type of masterpiece, my images that I create, my shitty, terrible images, at Animorphs Anonymous on Instagram. You can go on our Facebook page, which is Animorphs Anonymous on Facebook, or our super secret, super awesome group, the Andalite Bandalites, which is facebook.com/group/Animorphs Anonymous.
If you want to listen to our podcast on a different podcast hosting site. You have many to choose from. We are on
I was
Google
hoping
Play.
you were going to do the whole thing in song.
I'm sorry, I lost steam. I died.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so we have Google Play, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, Podcast Republic, iTunes for an undetermined amount of time, Spotify. Yeah.
Sweet. Tell me about your comic.
I have a comic. It is called Beside You. Please read it. You can find it at bsideyoucomic.com. Please read it. I love it.
Yes. Please read it. It's very good.
Aw, I just wish I could work on it. Soon.
Soon it's coming.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, I guess let's just like kind of let the steam of this episode die out and kind of like float listlessly out of the ship and make some sort of half-assed comment that's like a lesson that we learned, but it doesn't really mean anything.
Oh my god. All right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, bye, I guess.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.